There was a boy whose name was Jim. His friends were very good to him. They gave him tea, and cakes, and jam, and slices of delicious ham, and chocolate with pink inside, and little tricycles to ride. They read him stories through and through, and even took him to the zoo. But there it was the awful fate befell him, which I now relate. You know, at least you ought to know, for I have often told you so, that children never are allowed to leave their nurses in a crowd. And on this inauspicious day, he slipped his hand and ran away. He hadn't gone a yard when, bang! With open jaws, a lion sprang and hungrily began to eat the boy, beginning at his feet. Now just imagine how it feels when first your toes, and then your heels, and then by gradual degrees your shins and ankles, calves and knees are slowly eaten bit by bit. No wonder Jim detested it. No wonder that he shouted, "Hi!" The honest keeper heard his cry. Though very fat, he almost ran to help the little gentleman. "Ponto!" he ordered as he came, for Ponto was the lion's name. "Ponto?" he said with angry frown. "Down, sir." "Let go! Put it down!" The lion made a sudden stop. He let the dainty morsel drop, and slunk reluctant to his cage, snarling with disappointed rage. But when he bent him over, Jim, the honest keeper's eyes grew dim. The lion having reached his head, the miserable boy was dead. When Nurse informed his parents, they were more concerned than I can say. His mother, as she dried her eyes, said, "It gives me no surprise. He would not do as he was told." His father, who was self-controlled, bade all the children round attend to James's miserable end, and always keep a hold of Nurse for fear of finding something worse. When George's grandmamma was told that George had been as good as gold, she promised in the afternoon to buy him an immense balloon, and so she did. But when it came, it got into the candle flame, and, being of a dangerous sort, exploded with a loud report. The lights went out, the windows broke, the room was filled with reeking smoke, and in the darkness shrieks and yells were mingled with electric bells, and falling masonry and groans, and crunching as of broken bones, and dreadful shrieks, when, worst of all, the house itself began to fall. It tottered, shuddering to and fro, then crashed into the street below, which happened to be Savile Row. When help arrived, among the dead were Cousin Mary, little Fred, the footman, both of them, the groom, the man that cleaned the billiard room, the chaplain, and the still-room maid, and I am dreadfully afraid that Monsieur Champignon, the chef, will now be permanently deaf. And both his aides are much the same, while George, who was in part to blame, received, you will regret to hear, a nasty lump behind the ear. The moral is that little boys should not be given dangerous toys. The nicest child I ever knew was Charles Augustus Fortescue. He never lost his cap or tore his stockings or his pinafore. In eating bread, he made no crumbs. He was extremely fond of sums, to which, however, he preferred the parsing of a Latin word. He sought, when it was within his power, for information twice an hour. And as for finding mutton fat unappetizing, far from that. He often, at his father's board, would beg them, of his own accord, to give him, if they did not mind, the greasiest morsels they could find. His later years did not belie the promise of his infancy. In public life, he always tried to take a judgment broad and wide. In private, none was more than he renowned for quiet courtesy. He rose at once in his career, and long before his 40th year had wedded Fifi, only child of Bunyan, First Lord Aberfield. He thus became immensely rich and built the splendid mansion which is called the Cedars, Muswell Hill, where he resides in affluence still, to show what everybody might become by simply doing right. And is it true? It is not true. And if it were, it would not do for people such as me and you, who pretty nearly all day long are doing something rather wrong. Because if things were really so, you would have perished long ago, and I would not have lived to write the noble lines that meet your sight, nor the artist survive to draw the nicest things you ever saw. The end.